We are used to thinking of the economy as the reign of scarcity. And then, according to some of the proponents of this view, once we overcome scarcity, we can turn to our private pleasures and to the private sublime. But a better way of thinking of the economy is to view the work of production as an opportunity for the construction of humanity, to turn the realm of scarcity into the terrain of freedom, of a deeper freedom. There is a feature of economic history that should give us hope. In every historical circumstance, there is a more advanced practice of production. The most advanced practice is the practice that is closest to the imagination. At the time of the Industrial Revolution, it was mechanized manufacturing. And every sector of the economy, even agriculture, was eventually transformed on the model of mechanized manufacturing. Now we have in the world a new advanced sector, characterized by the accumulation not only of capital and technology, but also of knowledge. In this new economy, production is committed to permanent innovation. The contrast between conception and execution is attenuated. All specialized work roles are relativized. And the best firms become more like the best schools. There is a fateful question for the future of humanity. Will this new advanced sector, the knowledge-based economy, include only a privileged elite, or will its practices be disseminated throughout much of the economic order, including the majority? On that question, our economic future turns. The new advanced practices of production should, in principle, be even more applicable to every sector of the economy than mechanized manufacturing was. And yet we find the opposite. We find that this new vanguardism, on the whole, remains quarantined in isolated parts of the economy, weakly linked to the other parts of the national economic order. They depend on very special conditions of high knowledge and high trust. We must therefore act collectively and politically to create the conditions for the dissemination of these advanced practices throughout the economy. To the extent that we succeed, we shall have three opportunities that also present us with three tasks. The first is to change the relation between the person and the machine. In past periods of economic history, the worker acted as if he were one of his machines in Adam Smith's pin factory or in Henry Ford's assembly line. In the future, what we should desire is that the machine allow us to reserve our time for everything that we have not yet learned how to repeat. Whatever we've learned how to repeat, we express in a formula, and then we embody the formula in the physical contraption, the machine. The worker then becomes increasingly the opposite of the machine. And the combination of the worker and the machine accomplishes much more than either could achieve alone. The second task is to change the nature of free labor. There are three forms of free work: wage labor, self-employment, and cooperation. In the 19th century, it was universally believed by liberals as well as by socialists that wage labor remained tainted by features of serfdom and slavery, and must eventually give way to the higher forms of free labor, self-employment and cooperation, combined or not with each other. It was only in the 20th century that the predominance of wage labor as the default form of free work began to be naturalized. Now, the economic order that is emerging in the world with the new advanced practice of production gives us a chance to renew the 19th century ideal in a new form. Wage labor will then take its place alongside self-employment and cooperation as only one of the forms of free work. We cannot achieve these first two goals, changing the relation between the person and the machine, and establishing a greater space for self-employment and cooperation, unless we also execute a third task. The third task is to prevent the market economy from being fastened to a single version of itself. If we are to be able to experiment with new ways of relating people to machines and new forms of organizing free work, we must be able better to combine decentralized economic initiative with the large-scale aggregation of resources, economies of scale. We cannot do that within the limits of the traditional property regime. We need to be able to experiment with alternative forms of decentralized access to productive resources and opportunities. Different regimes of private and social property should come to coexist experimentally within the same market economy. The axis of ideological controversy in the world for 200 years has been the state against the market. More state, less market, more market, less state, or some synthesis of market and state. Under this view, we can do only two things with the market economy. We can regulate it, or we can attenuate its inequalities through retrospective and compensatory redistribution by tax and transfer. What we cannot do is what we must in fact now do, which is to reinvent the market economy, the institutional arrangements and the legal rules that make it what it is, so that more people can have more access to more markets in more ways, but also so that we can create a basis on which the most advanced practice of production, the knowledge-based productive activity, can be propagated throughout the entire economy and include the majority of the labor force. Our success in these projects depends on two large conditions that lie outside the economy. The first condition is the education of the people. There must be a form of education that is focused on analytic capabilities rather than on information, that sacrifices encyclopedic superficiality to selective depth. that organizes teaching and learning through cooperative practices, and above all, that introduces every subject from contrasting points of view. The second major condition is the reinvention of democratic politics. We have now in the world only low-energy democracies. They perpetuate the rule of the living by the dead. They prevent us from being able to master and to change the structure of society. And they make change depend on crisis. What we need are high-energy democracies that give us, without trauma, the prerogative of transformation, elevating the level of organized popular engagement in political life, dissolving impasse rapidly, and allowing us, in different parts of a country or different sectors of a society, to create countermodels of the national future. These endeavors are informed and inspired by a vision of who we are and what we can become. We immeasurably exceed all the finite circumstances of our existence and all the social and conceptual worlds that we build and inhabit. Our aim is so to conduct our lives and to arrange our societies that we can become more human by becoming more godlike, and die only once.